going to be rationed. Your kids are going to go to school, and this time they're not going to make any bones about what they're going to teach them. Well, you know, they've been indoctrinating your kids since the 60s, getting them ready for such a day as this. I remember when I was still going to elementary school here in this country, they still taught civics. They still taught early American history. They still taught about the Constitution. They still taught about the checks and balances. And they still taught about the executive and the judicial and the legislative branches. You know, they still taught those things when I was going to elementary school. They still talked about Thanksgiving holiday in the context of loving your country and being thankful to God that you were born here. You know, they still taught those things. They still did the Pledge of Allegiance when I was a kid. And they sang the Star Spangled Banner. You know, they still did those things. And slowly those things started to disappear from our schools. They started to disappear. And they started to teach sex education and how to put on a condom, you know, and how to masturbate, you know, and how you should treat your homosexual schoolmates and be understanding, and then how to experiment sexually with people of the same sex, and how to take Sally home and do to her what in a private room what you wouldn't normally do at your age. And they're telling your 5-year-old, they're teaching your 5-year-old in kindergarten about sex in California. They teach her, you know. Who knows what they're teaching in your school for your kids? So they started brainwashing your kids decades ago in preparation for Joe Biden's administration, you know, and the communist takeover of this country. They taught your children, as they tried to teach me, they tried to teach me to hate America. And they managed to get that message through on a lot of stupid kids who hadn't had the practical experience I had. You know. And today, you go into any high school, any university setting, and the first thing they tell you is, we are going to change everything that you believe in. Whether you believe in God or whether you believe in your country, we're going to rip that right out of your heart and put our hatred and our revenge and our love for communism into your heart. That's what they've done, you know, to hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of kids in this country for the last 50 years. You know, and they recently asked a bunch of people, you know, they recently did a study where they show that a great many people in this country think that socialism is a great idea. Well, if we don't do something about this in the next few months, those people who say they love socialism are going to have a chance to experience it firsthand. And they're going to be able to look back and say to me, why didn't you warn me? Well, I tried to. You know, when Alexander Solzhenitsyn came to this country, he tried to warn the Americans about what he had experienced, and they laughed him out of the auditorium. You know, but now what he predicted is coming to fruition. After you know, we experienced all that in Cuba, we managed to escape Cuba, you know, by a process of what they called a lottery. And you put your name on this thing, and it was like a lottery. You know, one day in the dark of night, these guys on motorcycles show up to our home, and they bring these telegrams saying, you and your kids and your wife, you have been selected to leave the country, blah, blah, blah. But even that wasn't free. In order for that to happen, some of your relatives in the state had to pay some big bucks to get you out of there. Had to buy your plane tickets and sponsor you and take the responsibility for you in the United States. And that was my grandmother. My grandmother on my mother's side. She did all that to get us all out of there. She got practically all of my family out of Cuba doing that. My grandmother, with her meager earnings, she managed to get us all out of Cuba. And thanks to her. She was a lovely woman. But anyway, that's what communism is like. Okay? A lot of terror and ugliness. And you know, Alexander Solzhenitsyn said these words, and I close with this. He said, "The West is on the verge of collapse." Did you get that? Let me say that again. The West, that's us, here. The West is on the verge of collapse, created by its own hands. Between good and evil, there is an irreconcilable contradiction. One cannot build one's national life without regard for this distinction. We, the oppressed people of Russia, watch with anguish the tragic enfeeblement of Europe. We offer you the benefit of our experience and suffering. We would like you to accept it without having to pay the monstrous price of death and slavery that we have paid. That was Alexander Solzhenitsyn. And yet today, in America, all across our country, people are begging for socialism and communism. You know, when Eldridge Cleaver was being pursued by police in this country, he decided that the best thing to do was to escape and be a fugitive from justice. And he first went to Cuba, I believe he went. And from there he went to the Soviet Union and all the communist states. I think he even went to Africa. And he experienced all of the ugly regimes that were in opposition to our democratic way of life. And after a while, lo and behold, Eldridge Cleaver, the author of Soul on Ice and a member of the Black Panther Party, if you don't know who he was, he came back to the United States and turned himself into the police. And he served a prison sentence. And when he got out, he became a member of the Republican Party and started giving pro-American speeches and promoting the American way of life and hard work and accountability. And you know why he did that? Because he came to the realization, after experiencing all of the regimes that he thought were better than America, he came to the realization that there isn't any better place than the United States of America, where a man can actually work and make his dreams come true here. And there's no better place in the world that treats you as well as America does. That was Eldridge Cleaver, a member of the Black Panther Party, the first Black Panther Party that had gun battles in the street with the police in Chicago and New York and other places. Eldridge Cleaver. Think about that. And you need to save your country now. Now you need to save your country. I hope you do the right thing. Bye.